Are you looking to grow your dental practice and attract top-tier new patients? Discover the potential of digital marketing with a personalized strategy session. Join Lila Stone, the marketing director at Equa, for an exclusive 90-minute consultation. Lila and her team will dedicate 6 hours before your meeting to create a customized marketing plan specifically for your practice. This valuable opportunity is free of charge and comes with no commitments. Visit www.insuranceuntangledorg/MSM to schedule your meeting with Lila today. You'll also receive a free analysis report so you can start transforming your practice through the power of digital marketing.
You are now listening to another episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast, where we explore the various challenges faced by dental practices due to their reliance on insurance. Join us in this podcast as we dive deep into the issues surrounding dental insurance dependence and offer practical solutions and strategies to help you take control of your practice's financial future.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. My name is Ben Tuinei. I'm one of the co-hosts on this podcast. And y'all know that we created this podcast to help practices that are tangled up with the mess of insurance in their practices. So we're going to talk about topics that are helpful and meaningful to get you to take more control in a way to create a better future for all of us, including your patients and your team members. So today I have my good friend and co-host Naren. I'm going to be interviewing him today on some marketing concepts. Naren, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for taking time. So the topic that we decided to talk about today are 3 goals to make 2025 your best year yet. So Naren, let's talk about that. Like if you were to pick a top goal, or at least recommend, what is the first goal that we should be discussing as practice owners for 2025?
Yeah, I think the first goal is the goal itself, right? In other words, if you don't have, I'm just looking back at my life. I'm 49 right now. And I guess going back around 15 years ago, every year I would think about what I want to achieve, in the next year. Just thinking that through and like setting a target. And of course, when I was younger, it was all business. When I was like building my business, it's all about, business goals. But now it's more comprehensive. It's, what do I want my relationships to look like, and I get into even details around like, how many trips I should go with my wife or my kids, and how many of those should be with friends versus by ourselves. And so you really start thinking about goals, even health, right? What does it mean? The food I eat and how much I eat. And like, for example, I'm into intermittent dieting. So, so really like having goals itself and like thinking it through, I think makes a huge difference. And the first goal I think I would recommend to a practice owner is this idea that, try to grow at least 10% a year. Because if you're growing 10% a year, every 7 years, you're going to double. What is a fact is your costs will continue to go up, whether you like it or not. So if you don't grow 10% a year, almost you're dying because your expenses are up, but your revenue is not. And now you're taking home less money and less money and less money. So I would recommend that as the first goal for every practice owner, just at the bare minimum. Now, some people might say, oh, why don't I try 30%? But if you haven't even done 10 before, start with 10 and then see how that feels. And then if you from there, go to 15. Now, of course, if you're a really tiny startup, 10% may not be enough. I'm talking about like established practices that has been around for 5+ years. I think 10% is a great goal to have.
I keep hearing that that particular recommendation I've heard many a times. What is the significance about that 10% number for an established practice? Why is that such an important goal? Like an important number, I should say.
Yeah, I think it's just the rule of 72. Mm-hmm. So you take, whatever percent you're growing by and you divide it by 72 and it'll tell you approximately how long it'll take you to double. So for example, if you are, growing by 36%, you will double every 2 years. I mean, think about it. 36 times 2 is not 100, but what happens is second year, you're growing on top of the year one's growth. So the second year, will be much more than 36% of your first year, right? I mean, your third year will be much, so it'll keep you're compounding, right? That's the power of compounding. And the other reason I think 10% is significant is like every single practice should be able to do it. And you should be able to do it without having to hire additional people, hire additional, team members. So look at your practice. Let's say you're doing $1 million, you're going to 1.1 million. You can do it with the same team and same hours. The way you do it is you go after perhaps, bigger cases, focusing on scheduling bigger cases. In other words, let's say you are currently, just to simple numbers here, $1 million practice, 200 working days. That means you're doing $5,000 worth of dentistry. Per day. Now, to grow 10%, you have to do $5,500 worth of dentistry. It's easy to, chunk that and understand that and, work on it. Of course, now you have to make that a goal for somebody. You need to have you might say, okay, 1/3 is going to go to hygiene because let's say that's your ratio, and 2/3 is going to go to, to doctor production. So out of the 5,500, 2/3, I'm just doing some mental math here. Let's say is, how much is it? 3,700 or so would be, doctor production. And then the other, so out of the 5,500, 3,700, 1,800 is hygiene production. So hygiene, maybe just one extra SRP, or like one extra, complex case. So like, okay, setting that goal to the hygiene coordinator and or incentivizing your team who's doing hygiene to like look for those complex, so that extra hygiene help that somebody might need and identifying it, like, for example, so you really can start achieving it. So I think for those reasons, because it's easy to digest and easy to accomplish, I think, and at the same time, you will double your practice. I think that's why it's a significant goal, like 10%. Now, once you do the 10%, maybe go for 11%, but it's better to do 10% consistently than, try to do 20% and then fall flat on your face and your team gets in disillusioned and everybody quits.
Yeah, that kind of came to mind. I think you helped answer my question in a good way. And also in my mind, I was thinking that I've seen companies grow 20+% year by year, but what comes with that are a lot of operational inefficiencies, and so 10% seems to be a proven sweet spot. I mean, I could relate to that for my business. 7 years into it, we doubled,
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize that. I don't know if it's a natural law of business or not, but it seems to be a common theme. But I guess another question I had, Naren, is what are the keys to achieving a 10% growth year by year?
Yeah, I kind of started alluding to it in my last answer. One is, it's a math problem, right? So 1/3 comes from hygiene, 1/3 comes from doctor production. So you need to have a scheduling coordinator. And I'm a huge fan of Gary Tacker's. So, we'll put a link to thrivingdentist.com in the show notes. He talks about this idea of having champions and then bonusing those champions. Mm-hmm. So for example, you would have a hygiene champion, hygiene production champion, as well as a doctor production champion. And if they hit that 10% goal, pay them $250 every month. They hit it, right? Of course, some months they might do better than that. So instead of doing 10%, let's say they do 15%. And you might say, if you hit 15%, then I'm going to pay you even more. So you can say, okay, instead of $250, you'll get even more. Now, the good news is that bonus you're going to pay comes out of what the person is making for you in extra money, right? For example, so that extra revenue you're generating will pay for the bonus times 5. So really, it's not any money going out of your pocket. Rather, the upside is used to pay a portion of the upside. A tiny portion of the upside is used to reward the team. And also it creates a culture of, like you don't have to carry the whole weight yourself. You can help other people carry the weight. Of course, they share in the upside. And that motivates people, right? Having a goal, having something to work towards. And again, it's simple, one goal. So they don't have to try to do 7 things. This is the only thing they have to do, just to focus on, hitting the numbers on a daily basis as far as doctor production is concerned. And if they do that and they hit their total numbers, they get the bonus. So, so that is key, like having champions, having a bonus plan. And then, of course, talking about it, right? Like in a morning huddle, talking about what's our target. Like, for example, let's say your goal is 5,500, but you only have book treatment for, $4,000 that day, right? So you can talk about, okay, let's identify opportunities. Who's going to jump in? Who's going to pitch in? Of course, you don't want to go in most days where you're behind, but once in a while it's going to happen. So like having that checkpoint every morning, the morning huddle to like, fix any problems that you see and so forth. I think these are all good things.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think, from a goal setting perspective, that's actually the theme with my son right now, is just getting him to understand the importance of setting a goal and then what it feels like when you achieve that goal. It's an amazing feeling, which for business, it's not just a feeling, it's a lot of things, that you get in terms of a reward. So that's awesome, Naren. On that 10%, I've learned, I didn't know. It makes perfect sense to me the way you're explaining it. It's a set 10% as an annual growth, right? What about another goal? Like what would you say is a good second goal to focus on for 2025 for practice owners?
Yeah, I think the second goal to focus on is a marketing goal. Of course, I'm biased, and it's something that, as many of you know, I run a marketing company, and the problem is that not all marketing is equal. Like even PPO plans is a marketing function, right? Because the only thing they do is send you new patients. So, but in the case of the PPO plan, you are spending 45 cents on the dollar as a marketing fee. In other words, instead of charging your usual and customary fees, because they control your fees and also they don't pay you, even what your control fee is, they pay you only a portion of it. You end up only collecting, best case, out of $1,000 worth of dentistry, $550, right? So, now the other problem with PPO plans is you're doing that for the life of, the patient. So the patient is with you for 5 years. Every year, for whatever dentistry you do, 45%, let's say you do $1,000 worth of dentistry, $450 every year for those 10 years goes to the PPO plan. So it's, that could be like, $4,500 in a marketing fee for one patient. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you can do Google Ads. Now, Google Ads might cost you $400, $500 because the reason is every time somebody clicks on it, you're paying a lot of money. And because it's an ad, they don't trust you. So there's going to be no shows and so forth. So I would say second goal should be find the lowest cost way to, attract a new patient. And by far that is search engine optimization. Like you're looking at $50 to $60 a new patient. And remember, that's a one-time fee, not every time they come in, you're paying that fee, but rather the very first time they come in, you could think of it like you're paying that fee, but that patient is there with you for 10 years. Second year, you keep all the money. Third year, you keep all the money. Fourth year, you keep all the money. So it's a very, very powerful way for you to think about it. So I would say find the lowest cost way to, attract new patients, because, attracting patients is the lifeblood of every business. So you have to just not get any patient. You want to get the highest quality, lowest cost way to get that new patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that the reason why you're mentioning this today in terms of a second goal for 2025 is there's a pattern of slowness going on in the industry. There's a lot of practices that are sort of suffering with new patient flow, right? And consequently, you do see the effects of that months and years down the road, right? Seeing consistent lack of growth in practices. Can you speak to the part about just marketing in general, but more specifically, the part where we're dominating SEO on Google, right? Why do you think that is such an important goal for 2025?
Yeah, I think it's, I kind of already touched on it. It's the lowest cost. Instead of spending, in that first example of a PPO plan, $4,500 through the life of that patient in marketing fees, you're spending $60. Mm-hmm. What that means is the extra money you save goes into your pocket. You're not sharing it. So what do you do with that extra, $4,300 for every patient. Let's say you attract 300 new patients. That extra $4,300 is now money you can invest in technology, money you can use to save for your retirement, money you can use to pay your people better. So like I always believe that you should be smart with your money, because at the end of the day, business is about revenue and expenses. So you want to spend as little money as possible. So this number that I shared with you, like, it's definitely doable. So attracting high quality patients from SEO, and then saving so much money in terms of the cost of acquiring those patients, I think is definitely, a great goal to go after.
Absolutely. And that's excellent. And what I recommend is a lot of our clients, and including members of our group here in Utah, the Utah Dental United group, have taken advantage of the marketing strategy meeting, which for me personally, I've had clients do that and they've reported amazing, at least benefits, whether they retained Naren's team or not. It's a huge added value to the practice in terms of a look on marketing options, particularly that of SEO and Google. So if you want to take advantage of the marketing strategy meeting that here at Insurance Untangled, we offer that complimentary thanks to Naren and his team. You can check out insuranceentangled.com/MSM. That's marketing strategy meeting to take advantage of that offering. So Naren, let's talk about a third and final goal. In the interest of time, we'll maybe cap it at 3. What do you recommend for 2025 as far as a third goal?
Yeah, I think the third goal is to achieve the first 2 goals. One is the dominating Google, which is, how you save money on marketing, and also the very first goal, growing 10% or more every year. You need to become metrics driven. And, what's a famous quote from Peter Drucker? What you measure improves. So you need to create a culture where there are clear metrics that you want to work on every month, and you need to associate that metrics with relevant people. So let's say you have a 5-person team. Some people might have 2 metrics, some might only have 1. So you are working on 8 metrics or 6. If you have never done this before, start with 6, and there are specific people assigned to it. So of course you need to know what the metric is, you need to assign it to the right person, and then you need to be talking to these people at least once a month to review how they did against the metrics. And as needed, they should be able to come in and, talk about what they're struggling with, how you can help them. So like having check-in meetings for the ones who are, struggling, like maybe once a week or something, just say, hey, what can we do to help? Like, okay, you are responsible for doctor production goal. What techniques can we use to help you? I would strongly recommend Gary Takacs, who's a resource. He offers a great coaching program, and the website again is thrivingdentist.com. I mean, in case you need some help or hand-holding, then I would recommend you start with Gary.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Naren. I think metrics, you always hear that saying, out of sight, out of mind, right? If it's not on our radar, we're not going to focus on it. And so that quote that you mentioned, it's actually proven. It's proven that when we focus on something with the intent to improve it, naturally, those are the things in our lives that get the attention and improve. So as far as achieving as having somewhat of a metrics-driven practice, you had mentioned that Gary Takacs would be a good recommendation. So we'll post Gary's website in the show notes. Yeah. Any other things that you want to share with regards to having more, sort of a more metrics-driven focus in the practice? Anything else you can share on that topic, Naren?
Yeah, I think I'll share a couple of metrics as an example. We already talked about doctor production, hygiene production. Those could be good metrics. You want to focus on number of Google reviews you get every month, because it is the currency today, because without Google reviews, you won't convert those people who find you through SEO or even through your PPO plan into new patients. They're going to check your Google reviews. Now, whether you work on it or not, somebody who's unhappy with you will write that negative review. So you better set a target of getting 10 reviews a month. And then again, having a champion, rewarding them. There are techniques around it. We'll put a link to a podcast I think you and I did on like how to improve Google reviews. So you just have to keep setting these goals and working on it. Now I know I can do an entire, episode on metrics, and maybe that could be, the topic for our next podcast. But, I do think, being metrics driven is really, really key. And the key is, if you've never done this, start small, get help, whether it's Gary or, another person who knows how to create a metrics driven culture, and then, go after it. But if you do these three things we touched on today, set a goal of growing 10% a year, make your marketing the lowest cost, most effective marketing, where it's SEO based, Google based. And finally, where your practice culture is metrics driven. Everybody knows what their number that they need to focus on, and they focus on it. You're going to have a thriving practice. You're going to have a practice that, makes, you have fun, that's profitable, that's enjoyable, that's, also rewarding for the team members because they benefit as well and they have something to contribute. So everyone, comes together and, does something that they're very happy to do, happy to work on together.
Yeah, that's awesome, Naren. Really appreciate your insights there. Those 3 goals are amazing goals. Very much applicable to most businesses, particularly those practice owners here that are listening today. So thank you, Naren. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for another amazing episode of this Insurance Untangled podcast. We do a few podcasts and we kind of get the names mixed up a little bit. So thank you for joining us today. Again, visit our website, insuranceentangled.com. Check out the show notes for the offering for today's episode, which is the marketing strategy meeting, insuranceentangled.com/MSM. Until we meet again, thank you for joining us on an amazing episode, and have a wonderful day.